Do you have a favorite moment from the bubble?
Oh man, again, it's hard to pick one, but from a basketball standpoint, maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but Game 5 of the finals, I mean, that instantly felt like a classic between Jimmy Butler and LeBron James. I mean, Jimmy Butler going off for 35, 12, and 11 when his team was in a must-win scenario was just incredible, especially when you consider what Jimmy has been going through these past couple of years trying to find his fit in the league. Yeah. And then towards the end, he was saying how this feels like home. Miami finally feels like home. He says he knows he's a little bit abrasive sometimes. He knows he's a big personality. But in Miami, that's what they're looking for. That's what fits. That's what the culture of the Heat is. It is getting in each other's faces when things aren't going wrong, where things are going wrong, holding each other accountable. And so watching that was awesome. And then, I mean, important story-wise, I think covering what the Milwaukee Bucks did and the subsequent actions that followed just felt weighty in a way that sometimes when sports is looked at as the toy department of the newsroom, that felt like it transcended being the candy floss of a newsroom.
So you guys know me a little bit, and I don't really like change, and I'm a bit of like a traditionalist when it comes to things. So I wasn't sold on the bubble in terms of the basketball product through the exhibition games and through the seeding round, through most of the seeding round, until the last night where the Nets played the Blazers. And the Blazers had to win to get into that play-in game. And it was going to be the first play-in game that we ever saw in NBA history. And the traditionalist of me is like, why do we need this? But I was also kind of intrigued. And it was a fantastic game. Both teams scored in the 130s. Dame Lillard hit that shot from the logo, scores 42. Karis LeVert leading an undermanned Nets team with 37 points. And the arena may have only had 250 people in it total, if that. But you could feel the intensity of it. And it made me feel good about what we were heading into in the playoffs. Because I was still worried, like, would this feel like a legitimate championship? Are we doing all of this just, to go through the motions and not feel like there was a validation to come from it at the end? That game let me know that if we do these playoffs, it's going to feel right.
You can't knock the basketball here. You just can't. It was fantastic. Now, you mentioned the Milwaukee Bucks and what they did, and it was so powerful to not just see them just basically say, you know what, we've had enough, and we don't have to have some big plan to just tell you we cannot play basketball right now. I thought that had a lot of power, and obviously it had an effect on athletes, not just around the country and other sports, but around the world. We saw golf, tennis, and sports being played in other countries, them do the same thing. But what do you think is going to be the lasting effect now that the bubble is popped?
Truly, I think only time will tell. And I don't mean to be a pessimist about that, but I do think we've heard folks in the league office say, well, we expect things to get a little more, quote, back to normal. And what does normal mean? I understand that in that context, it means probably Black Lives Matter coming off of the court, maybe less of those messages being incorporated around the arena. But normal also means systemic oppression and police brutality. And so it is going to be, in many ways, up to the players to keep this conversation going. And time and time again, we talk about how the oppressed, it shouldn't be the responsibility of the oppressed to fix oppression. And so until not only do the owners follow the lead of the players, but actually take their own initiative to do something more, I am skeptical of the lasting change it can cause. That being said, I think this was an important step for the NBA to take, because if you look back to when Colin Kaepernick first kneeled during the national anthem, the league sent out a memo saying, remember, if you do this, there will be consequences. And that seems to be something that the league is moving away from. And so I think that in that way, this could be a first step, a domino, but it will largely be up to not just the players, and it isn't the responsibility of these players necessarily. They are not activists. They are players who have taken up a cause that they care about, but there's going to be so much more work that needs to be done in the world, in the United States, for lasting change to take place. But athletes may very well be catalysts for that, I think.
Last night before Rachel sat down with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, I actually walked with LeBron from his press conference to the spot on the court where they were setting up for the interview, and we chatted about a couple things. But one of them was, what happens when you don't have all these cameras around here, you don't have these media folks here asking you the questions about the way you want to enact social change. And he said that he's been anticipating this moment. He's already been reaching out to his team of advisors. And between now and November 3rd, as the election approaches and he has the more than a vote initiative, he said, I need to double down, if not triple down, on my efforts. And certainly that won't necessarily affect long-term change, but he's not walking away with, I got my trophy, I got my finals MVP, job's done. He recognizes that he has to continue to walk the walk behind the message.
I do think activism is contagious, right? That once people see other people doing it, it feels a little bit more comfortable, it feels a little bit less scary, it feels like you're a little bit less out there on their own. And I saw some of the younger players in the league really take leadership roles in this that I think are going to carry forward. So I hope maybe that's part of the lasting change. We'll have to see. To your point, the story is still being written. I feel lucky that we all got to cover it. Malika, the reason I keep reminding everyone how long you've been here is because it's such an accomplishment. It really is. The work that you in particular did here and the dedication that you and Melinda Adams, who was the producer who was here longest, putting into this is something that